I went on a date with my boyfriend's boss. Now he's unemployed, and I outrank him. When Kevin and I first met at a college networking event, he struck me as one of those effortlessly ambitious guys. Clean-cut, spreadsheet-minded, always a plan. Always a blazer, even in spring. He was 2 years older, already working part-time for a small finance firm in the city while finishing his MBA. I was just starting my junior year in public relations and still believing that personality could get you hired. We started dating a month later. Fast forward 4 years. We shared a 2-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn with terrible water pressure, a cat we didn't name until 6 months in, and a fridge full of Greek yogurt and IPA. Most of our conversations hovered between, "Did you pay Kaneen?" and "Do we actually like each other? Or are we just used to each other?" But I thought that was adulthood. Kevin had recently been promoted to team lead at Whitaker Moore Consulting. I congratulated him over takeout sushi, pretended not to notice that he didn't ask how my own job was going. Not great. My boss was a narcissist, and my clients kept ghosting. Still, I tried to be supportive. That Friday, he invited me to an office mixer hosted by his company. "It's just drinks," he said. "You can finally meet some people I complain about." So I said yes. Did my makeup in the Uber. Changed my shoes 3 times. Kevin wore the same navy suit he always wore, the one with the inside pocket torn from overstuffed resumes. The event was held at a rooftop bar in the financial district. All glass panels and $20 cocktails. I felt out of place the second we walked in. Everyone looked like they walked out of a magazine about people who pretend they like their jobs. Kevin immediately peeled off to talk to some guy named Wyatt about investment trends. I was left standing awkwardly by the bar, pretending to text while nursing a white wine I didn't want. That's when he noticed me. He approached with the kind of presence that made you sit up straighter, even if you didn't know why. His suit was tailored to the millimeter. He wasn't hot. Exactly, not in the glossy Instagram way, but he had that quiet, magnetic confidence that made everything around him feel secondary. "You look like someone who wasn't warned this would be a networking masquerade," he said, smirking slightly. I laughed, grateful someone had finally spoken to me. "That obvious?" "Very," he said, but in a refreshing way. "Everyone else here is performing. You're just here." "I'm Olivia," I said, offering my hand. He raised an eyebrow. "Kevin's Olivia?" That stopped me. "Yeah. Wait, do I know you?" He chuckled. "Grant Whitaker, Kevin's boss." My brain did a weird little freeze. Oh, so this is the guy Kevin's obsessed with impressing. He didn't look nearly as intimidating as I'd pictured, more like someone who'd write poetry in the margins of a balance sheet. "I've heard a lot about you," I said. "I bet," he said, sipping his drink. "Kevin likes to name drop me when he's nervous." I laughed. "You're not that scary." "Don't tell HR." The conversation flowed too easily. We talked about everything except work music, food, the way New Yorkers pretend to like rooftop parties. It wasn't flirty, exactly, but there was something charged in the air, and I liked it. When Kevin returned to grab a second drink, Grant gave me a 2-finger salute and said, "Pleasure finally meeting the mystery girl." Kevin didn't notice the way my cheeks burned. That night, in bed, Kevin recapped the evening like a politician after a fundraiser. He mentioned who laughed at his jokes, who ignored him, who got too drunk and might be written up. I listened. I always listened. He didn't mention that Grant talked to me for 20 minutes, and I didn't mention that Grant found me on Instagram the next day. At first, I thought it was a mistake. A soft follow request that would disappear, but it stayed. Then came the DM. I stand by what I said. "You didn't belong at that party, but in a good way." I stared at the message for a long time. I shouldn't reply, I told myself, but I did. "Not sure if that's a compliment or a polite insult," he replied almost immediately. "Definitely a compliment. Want to grab coffee and unpack it?" And there it was, the moment, the little hinge everything could turn on. I didn't answer right away. I stared at it for a whole day. But on Monday, after another argument with Kevin about how I wasn't taking my career seriously, I typed, "Sure, just coffee, right?" His reply was one word, Always. We agreed to meet on Wednesday, late afternoon, at a place called Stillwater on the Lower East Side. It wasn't trendy, no neon signs or overpriced oat milk foam, but it had big windows, black coffee, and quiet music. Exactly the kind of place you pick when you don't want someone to think it's a date, but also don't want them to think it's not. I arrived 10 minutes early, sat at a two-top near the back, checked my reflection in the window more than once, wore a button-up and jeans. Simple. Not trying. He arrived exactly on time. No suit this time, just a dark sweater, chinos, and that same unshakable confidence. He didn't look at me like a man meeting his employee's girlfriend. He looked at me like someone who had already made up his mind. We talked and talked. It started with small things, what we were reading, the best diners in New Jersey, how both of us hated TikTok, but secretly used it. But then it shifted. So, he said after his second espresso, is it exhausting dating someone who wants to climb but forgets to look sideways? I blinked. That's direct. I can be subtle, he said, but not when it's a waste of time. Kevin works hard, I said, but my voice lacked conviction. He just gets in his own way sometimes. He doesn't talk about you much at work, Grant said. When he does, it sounds more like a resume bullet than a relationship. I didn't respond, not because I disagreed, but because someone finally said out loud what I kept pretending not to feel. We didn't kiss. We didn't even touch. He walked me to the subway, and we stood a little too close, just long enough for something unspoken to hang between us. As the train pulled in, he leaned in and said quietly, "You deserve more attention than he's capable of giving." And then he walked away. I didn't tell Kevin, but things between us started unraveling in tiny, sharp ways. He'd get home and rant about his boss, micromanaging him, how Grant was testing him, messing with his deadlines. I listened and nodded, knowing full well that I had shared coffee and a strange, quiet electricity with the man he feared most. 2 weeks passed, then 3. Then Grant texted again, "Coming to this gallery opening Friday? You'd like it. Loud colors, bold decisions." I told myself I wasn't going. I had plans. I was tired. But at 7:42 p.m., I stood in front of a canvas that looked like someone had painted a scream, and I felt a presence behind me. "I knew you'd come," he said. I didn't even pretend to be surprised. We didn't sleep together that night, but it felt worse somehow. We walked along the river, talked about loyalty and regret and timing. He touched my wrist when he made a point. I laughed at things that weren't that funny. He never asked about Kevin, and I never brought him up. The kiss came a week later, on a park bench at dusk. My phone had died. Kevin was at the gym. I hadn't meant to meet up with Grant, but I had walked past his office, and he texted, and I didn't say no. We kissed slowly, like it was inevitable, like we had done it before, in a different lifetime, and were just remembering how. When I got home, Kevin was asleep on the couch, Netflix still playing. I stood there for a full minute watching him, wondering if he would feel it on my lips when I kissed him goodnight. I knew it wouldn't last. I wasn't stupid, but it lasted longer than it should have. There were more coffee shops, more walks, a dinner once in a booth too dark for questions. Then finally, one night, we crossed the line all the way. It wasn't romantic. It wasn't even sexy. It was desperate, like we were both clawing at something neither of us could define. I cried on the way home, not because I felt guilty, but because I felt awake. Kevin found out 3 weeks later. Not from me, from Grant. Kevin didn't yell, didn't throw anything, didn't even say a word the night he found out. He came home from work later than usual. I was in the kitchen microwaving leftover pasta. I remember the timer blinking, 0:47, when I heard the front door slam. He walked past me without looking, went straight to the bedroom, slammed the door. I stood there in the kitchen, holding a plate I suddenly couldn't eat from, and just waited. 10 minutes later, he emerged, eyes bloodshot, hands shaking. His voice came out quiet, almost numb. "How long?" I didn't ask, "How long what?" I knew what he meant. I could have lied, could have said it was just one night. But I was past lying. Maybe I wanted to be punished. "A few weeks," I said, His face didn't even change. Just a slight twitch near his temple, like something inside was trying to escape. With him. Yes. He sat down on the couch, the same one where we used to eat takeout and argue about dumb shows. The couch where he'd once told me he could see us getting married one day. "Did you ever love me?" he asked. I hesitated. "I did. I don't think I do anymore." There was a pause that felt like a crack forming in the middle of our apartment. "You destroyed my life," he whispered. "I destroyed our life," I said. "Not yours. You still have." "No," he snapped. "He fired me. Today. He didn't even tell me why. Just said I wasn't the right fit anymore. And then I put it together." I blinked. "What?" "He fired me. After you slept with him. And now I have nothing." The silence between us became unbearable. "I didn't ask him to fire you," I said. "You didn't have to." He moved out the next morning. Took his clothes, his desktop PC, and half the pantry. Left the cat. For 2 weeks. I didn't hear from either of them. I texted Grant once. "You fired him," he replied. He would have left eventually. I just gave him a head start. I didn't respond. Something about that rubbed me raw. Was I just a power play to him? A weird way to remind Kevin who was in charge? The apartment was too quiet now. I started sleeping with the TV on. Kevin's absence wasn't the hard part. The silence was. My phone stayed dry. No apology. No closure. Then, one afternoon, there was a knock at the door. It was Kevin's dad. I'd met him once years ago. A tall, weary man with a thick beard and a bitter smile. I hadn't seen him since graduation. "Can I come in?" he asked. "What's going on?" "Kevin's staying with me. He won't talk to anyone." "Thought you should know." I let him in. Made coffee. We sat across from each other like strangers at a train station. "He said he's done with both of you," his father said. I figured. Said he never saw it coming. "Thought you two would get married." I swallowed. "I thought so too. Once." "So why?" he asked. "Why blow it all up?" I didn't answer for a while. Then, because I was tired of being invisible. After he left, I texted Grant again. "What were we exactly?" His response was immediate. "A moment. A mistake. Or maybe a lesson." "To who?" "Both of us." 2 nights later, Kevin posted on Instagram for the first time since everything. It was a photo of him on a rooftop, hair longer, holding a beer. Captioned, "Some bridges are better burned." People liked it, commented heart emojis. Said he looked good. I stared at that post longer than I should have, then muted his account. It's been 6 months now. I still live in the same apartment, still drink bad coffee. The cat likes me more than it ever did before. Grant texted once, in January. "Happy New Year." I didn't reply. 6 months had passed since the breakup exploded in flames that consumed everything I had: my relationship, my job, my self-respect. I kept my days on repeat, like a broken record skipping over the same painful notes. The silence at home was deafening. The cat was my only constant, purring softly, as if to remind me I was still alive. One Tuesday afternoon, while scrolling mindlessly through my phone, a notification popped up. It was from a local gossip blog I didn't even know followed me. The headline made my stomach twist. "Scandal rocks tech startup. CEO accused of firing employee over girlfriend drama." My heart hammered. I tapped the article and started reading. Grant's name was everywhere. The article painted him as a ruthless leader who had fired Kevin after finding out about the affair with me. It quoted anonymous sources describing toxic office politics, power plays, and emotional blackmail. It also mentioned that the CEO had begun dating the girlfriend of his employee soon after the firing, a detail that the anonymous tipster called unprofessional and cruel. The comments were brutal. People called Grant a monster, a manipulative tyrant, and worse. I closed the article, my hands shaking. I debated for days. Should I say something? Should I defend Grant? Or protect Kevin? Or just let the story burn itself out? The truth was more complicated. Grant was controlling, yes, but he was also vulnerable. In his own way, he pushed me to open my eyes to see the world outside the suffocating relationship I had with Kevin. Yet, he destroyed Kevin's life in the process. Kevin was hurt, angry and lost. I wasn't innocent, but I also wasn't a villain. Neither of us were. That weekend my phone rang. It was Grant. His voice was calm, but there was a tension beneath. "You saw the article." "Yeah, I'm not sorry about the firing." "No, but the exposure. It's going to ruin everything." "Good. Maybe it's time for everyone to see the truth." "What truth?" "That sometimes people aren't who they pretend to be. That power breaks things, including people." He paused. "Are you ready for the fallout? Because it's only just beginning." I didn't know what to say. The line went dead. That night, I lay awake thinking about what truth really meant. I remembered the first time Grant looked at me not like a boss or a stranger, but like someone who saw through the cracks. I remembered the way Kevin stopped looking at me like I was someone he loved, and started looking like I was the reason his world fell apart. I wondered, was I a savior or a destroyer? The next morning an email landed in my inbox. It was from an anonymous sender. The subject line read, "Do you want to know what really happened? Watch this." Attached was a link. I clicked it. The video was grainy but unmistakable. It showed a heated argument in the office, Kevin and Grant, voices raised, tempers flaring. I could hear Kevin shouting, "You can't just fire me because of her." Grant's voice cut back. "I didn't fire you because of her. I fired you because you weren't worth keeping." Kevin's face twisted in disbelief and hurt. Then, Grant's expression softened, almost regretful. "This isn't personal. It's business. But you made it personal." The video ended with Kevin storming out, slamming the door behind him. The next few days were a whirlwind. The video leaked on every social platform. Friends messaged me. Some asked what I had done. Others took my side. Grant disappeared from social media. Kevin, I had no idea. But the worst part wasn't the exposure. It was how quickly people forgot. Days blurred into weeks. The chaos from the video leak faded like a storm passing over a dry field, leaving cracks, but no real change. People moved on, scrolling to the next scandal, the next drama. But I couldn't. Kevin remained silent. No calls, no texts, no social media activity. Just a ghost haunting my memory. One night, as I lay in bed scrolling through old messages, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Meet me at the diner on 5th. Tomorrow, 8 p.m. No name, no explanation. Curiosity and dread tangled inside me, but I knew I had to go. The diner was half empty when I arrived. The smell of burnt coffee and frying grease wrapped around me like a bad memory. I spotted a figure in the corner booth, Kevin. His hair was longer now, tangled and messy. He looked thinner, like the stress had eaten away pieces of him. "You came," he said, voice rough. I didn't know what else to do. He sighed, rubbing his hands over his face. "I've been thinking about everything, us, Grant, the job, the firing. You. I'm sorry for everything. It's not that simple," he said. "You made choices. So did I. But I guess I'm here because I don't want this to be the end." Neither do I. We talked for hours. About pain, regret, betrayal. About the lies we told ourselves to survive. About what we lost. And what, maybe, we could still find? Kevin looked me in the eyes. "Do you want to try to fix this?" "I don't know," I whispered. "But I want to try." The next morning, I found an email from Grant. "I know you met Kevin. If you want to move forward, you need to choose me or him." The ultimatum hit me like a punch to the gut. I called Grant. "Why are you doing this?" "Because I don't do half measures. Because I want what's best for me." "But what about what's best for me?" "You're choosing your own path now." That night, I sat alone, the weight of impossible decisions crushing me. Could I forgive? Could I be forgiven? Could I escape the chaos I had helped create? And somewhere, deep inside, I realized that maybe, just maybe, the real reckoning was only beginning. If you like this video, please subscribe for more.